What an introduction. You can hear me okay? Yeah. Governance is a messy business. That's what I'm talking about here today. Kind of like that messy, you know? That's what it feels like to be participating on DAOs and trying to organize people and cooperate with people and have a direction in some sense. She said we're not talking about politics, but you know, politics is also a messy business. And coordination is also a messy business, and collaboration as well. You bite and you lick, and you bite and you lick, you know. And sometimes we also need to cooperate with each other, not get in each other's way, right? That's also messy. So governance feels like a messy thing, and most people, after they experiment a little bit with trying to do some governance work or participate in governance or participate in those kind of forums, they start to be a little bit more, demotivated about it because it is a frustrating kind of thing. Or they turn into that military strategy crap. So the governance is a messy, chaotic, sloppy business, really. There's no other way of saying it, and there's no denying it as well, I think. So as a consequence, DAO governance is also going to be messy. And since the times of Plato, that we've been experimenting with democracy and other types of governance. We've been through, monarchy for a long time, which is also another type of governance that we mostly, throughout most of the world, got rid of. But we're still figuring out democracy, right? So today I'm going to talk a little bit about DAO governance in particular, because it's where I think we're experimenting more in terms of how to do governance nowadays, especially in the blockchain space. So who from you here has joined the DAO? Please raise your hand. Okay, who knows what the DAO is? Sorry, before that. Okay. So scratch that. So a DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, and basically is an internet native, blockchain native, Web3 native kind of organization that operates on ideally smart contracts and with people all over the world that may not know each other, but they try to coordinate to do something together. Either they raise money to fund something, or they, try to do something. And there's been a lot of examples of DAOs lately, either in DeFi protocols that are managed by DAOs, or just plain simply people trying to buy stuff as a group. 2 years ago, a group of people from a single tweet decided to bid on a physical copy of the Constitution of the United States to try to buy that for $40 million. And in 2 weeks, they raised $40 million from anonymous people in the internet. And they went to the Christie's auction and tried to win it, and they didn't. But it was a good example of how people can coordinate really fast online to try to accomplish things together in a DAO format. So some of you have joined DAOs. Who has voted on a on-chain DAO proposal from here? All right. Who has created a DAO proposal? So I guess probably no one. Who has designed a governance system for a DAO? Because these things need to be designed somehow and defined somehow as well, right? Okay, so I'm Paulo. I'm a designer by trade and my heart. And I've been doing DAO stuff since DDAO, the first DAO that was a major crisis, let's say, debacle, and caused a lot of issues in the early days of Ethereum as well. It was a lot of fun to be around for that as well in 2016. And I've been participating in DAOs and creating DAOs and killing DAOs and, all those stuff. So DAO governance, or just governance in general, just to get an overview of what it really is. Usually the definition, just to start by that, is that governance is the structures, processes, and traditions that determine how power is exercised, how stakeholders have their say, decisions are made, and decision makers are accountable. Roughly these 4 things. The issue with this is that whenever you want to start something and you want to kind of figure out how you're going to govern yourselves as a group, right? When you're trying to define these 4 things, you're also making decisions. So kind of a concept that exists of meta-governance is that you need to first decide how decisions are made within that group. So that's the first step of trying to do any governance thing. So how decisions are made by a group of people is usually how governance, I think, should be best viewed from this point of view. And I'm sure all of you have been in the context in a situation where you have to make decisions in a group. Either, your group of friends wants to go out for dinner and you're trying to decide which restaurant to go to, or whatever it is, or in the family, or in the neighborhood, or in the city, or in the country when you're voting for elections for the next prime minister, or whatever it is. And I think there's a good distinction between decisions that we make for ourselves that only impact ourselves, and decisions that we made as a group that impact other people. So governance is really needed when this second type of decisions are needed to be taken, right? When you need to decide in a group things that will impact the whole group, right? That's where problems really arise, because everybody's going to be thinking differently about it, and we need to come to some decision, right? So we have humans in a group, right, usually, and we all know that the bigger the group, the harder it is to coordinate, and the more communication lines there are, and people only talk with a little bit of the group, and they don't sync across, and blah, blah, blah. So the bigger the group, the more messy this becomes, obviously. But also there's another thing, which is at the individual level, we also have some governance within ourselves that we need to grapple with, because, at the most very basic level, we can decide with this, or we can decide with this. For men, there's some other part that sometimes gets in decisions. Even between these two parts, we struggle, right? So we know at the individual level what it means to struggle to make a decision, right? And we're always in this struggle of how should we decide, what decision should we take, so on and so forth. So imagine that at the group level, where now every individual of the group is struggling within themselves, and then the group is struggling, and it's sort of a whole fucking mess. So there's no way to optimize governance, or to automate governance, or to, build an AI that whatever, or an algorithm that decides, or whatever it is, because this issue will always be messy. So my point is that we might as well just lean into the messiness of it. And this may sound a little bit weird, but everybody likes to watch from afar some messiness sometimes, right? As that guilty pleasure of watching 90 Days to Wed, or those TLC things where people are just messy, or reality shows, whatever it is, right? It's very popular. And so there's a way to face this messiness in a more playful, I think, and more fun way, and not just like a super serious where, the world is going to end if we don't get this right, okay? And usually in DAOs, the way decisions are made, just to do a little recap, is that you have some kind of boundary of who is within the DAO and who is outside the DAO, and that's basically who holds the token for the DAO. So there's some kind of fuzzy boundary, which nobody really knows where it is. And then one of those agents, let's call it, can be a person mostly, can take the initiative to propose something. So they can come up with a proposal to say, hey, everybody, I think we should do this. And they state their proposal, right? And then they put that proposal up to a vote. That's usually how most governance in DAOs happens. And this all happens ideally on chain, and people get their votes verified and proposals verified. And on most DAOs that operate on chain, those proposals can even include the code that executes a transaction. So the proposal can be, I want to hire that person for $1,000, and I think we should do that as a group. If you approve, and if everybody votes yes, the transaction gets automatically executed, and nobody can stop it. So that's how most DAOs should operate, and do operate now. So someone has the initiative to make a proposal, everybody votes on the proposal, some people vote for the proposal, some people vote against the proposal, some people abstain. And if the proposal passes, it automatically gets executed and transferred and blah, 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 blah. When things go right. When there's a bug, they also automatically execute. So like a couple months ago, Gitcoin, which is a well-known Web3 project, they did an on-chain proposal to fund one of their teams with $500,000, and they put the proposal up for a vote. 143 people voted, like only 3 of them voted against. So the proposal passed, and it was automatically executed, and those $500,000 went to the trash because the address was wrong. And so they just wasted $500,000 because they didn't verify this, and because everybody that voted didn't read the details and blah, blah, blah. So still, after all these automations, things can go wrong, and they do sometimes. But that's usually how DAO governance works. And after many iterations of this, more people join the DAO, more people leave the DAO, and that's how basically DAOs evolve and grow, is by someone having the initiative to do a proposal, everybody voting on that, the decision gets made, and we move forward, right? And this thing, the proposal part, is actually really crucial, because sometimes what happens nowadays, someone, and it can be an individual, a team, a group of people, whatever, they need to decide what's a good idea for the DAO, right? And they need to have the initiative to propose it and to write the proposal and write all the details of it, and the more complex the mechanism and the group and the organization is, more the details there are, and blah, 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 right? So it's a lot of work to write proposals. And then they have to campaign, basically, for people to vote yes on the proposal, for the proposal to pass, for the thing to get executed. And sometimes most of those proposals are, so there's this DAO, I have a company that provides this service, I want to propose the DAO to hire my company, so I make this proposal to the DAO. If it gets approved, I get money and I provide the service to the DAO, right? So those are most kinds of proposals, from service providers to the DAOs, asking for money for business, basically. And as you can imagine, as well as in the real world with, RFPs and public consultations and all that, there's a lot of shadiness involved in this process of trying to propose to get my company hired to do a service and all that, right? So the content of proposals are usually really interesting. And in DAOs, they all happen in the open, right? All the proposals are posted on public forums, everybody can see them, everybody can comment on them, everybody can provide new information about them, while people are still voting and deciding for that week or whatever, how many days it is. So it creates interesting dynamics of how people deal with these proposals and how they decide to vote on them. But there's a lot of proposals all the time for a lot of DAOs at random times of day, with random voting choices, it's a whole mess as well. And for you to be part of a DAO and to vote on proposals, it's actually like almost a full-time job, because you have to keep track of the context of each DAO, what this proposal wants to do, what's the risk, or what are the benefits, blah, blah, blah. So it's also messy as well. I've been working on a thing called Proposals.app, which is going to be an app that we're going to launch soon, to organize all proposals from all DAOs, where if you vote on DAO proposals, you can go there and see the proposals, get more information about them, see relevant proposals that were passed on other DAOs that are similar, what people talked about it, so on. And you can vote from there and do a bunch of other stuff. And our take on it is that we can make it a little bit hot and spicy as well. Because, as I said, there's a lot of content in these proposals that can be a little bit shady, or it's not really there, or it's not really exposed. And we believe there's an opportunity to make a whistleblowing mechanism on top of these proposals. And so basically we're going to try to implement something like that, where if you see that there's a proposal for a DAO that wants to do something, and you have information that is not being shared publicly that might change the outcome of the voting on that proposal, you will be incentivized to share that information in our platform. And if the information is then verified and true, you get a reward, like a bounty, for sharing that information. As you can imagine, this will have a propensity to generate a lot of drama and entertainment as well, maybe, so that's mostly where we think we're heading there. Thank you very much. That's been my thing about DAO governance and governance. Questions if you have.
Well done. I was just thinking, you're more a midwifer or you're more a green reaper in this case, because you create and you kill them all at the same time.
Yeah,
it's just a joking with
green
you.
reaper, mostly. Most things don't need to be DAOs, and there was a time where a lot of people created DAOs just because it was the trendy thing to do. and it didn't really make sense to make things as DAOs.
Okay,
So-
okay. Just joking. Questions for him? Yeah, let's go, because we're nearly finishing the first period of this morning. Yeah, upstairs, over there. Great.
Everybody's hungry, they want to go have lunch.
Only a half.
Everyone wants to go to lunch.
Half midday only.
Yeah. How do you see the DAOs? Because you know a lot of exchanges have their own voting rights because they own the tokens. How do you see that power of having that kind of voting, like you see in Compound, like last year, what happened? How can we change that? We can't, right?
Create new DAOs, create new exchanges that from the start distribute their voting power more fairly. So that's basically the point.
Yeah.
Right now we're kind of stuck in a position where the main protocols have a lot of concentrated power, and even worse, the mechanisms that we're using is augmenting the power on people that have more power, right? Uniswap, there's actually a study on Uniswap where over time the biggest voters with more power have earned more voting power. Yeah, there's no really good ways to do that. And also VCs, when they invest in those companies, they also get a lot, and then they delegate it and so on. So there's also all that part as well. There has been some cool experiments on how to distribute the voting power from the beginning in a more fair way. That will always usually require some kind of reputation system where you can, you can do one wallet gets one token, or you can do whatever, and you can do airdrops in different crazy kind of ways. But for it to be fair, I think it needs some reputation kind of system to be.
Still needs a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. The current versions that we have are very rough.
Will you make a DAO for your app?
Maybe. As I was saying, I don't think most organizations should be DAOs. Organizations that work well as a company or as a high-growth startup or whatever should be that, not try to pretend to be a DAO. The kinds of things that need to be a DAO are things where people really need to, as a group, figure out a bigger problem that usually companies cannot figure out, and where there's some economy to be made as well as a whole platform. So people have been talking about how do we manage AI models, how do we monetize AI models. Those kinds of things make sense to be done as a DAO. There's some projects around that, for example, because maybe it doesn't make sense that just one company in the world has the most powerful model, right? Not sure. But those kind of things make sense to be a DAO. Some other kind of organization, not so much.
Okay, thank you. Oh, there's one on the next, just in front.
Hello. Do you believe this can be used in a election?
Country election.
In countries, exactly. With the burned NFTs you talked yesterday.
I think that what's more interesting if we talk about on the country level and for country election kind of level, we already have in the normal world, the physical world, digital voting mechanisms that work in some countries have pioneered and so on, right? And that could help a lot with people going to vote, right? Because we don't have a lot of people voting. We should have more people voting, right? But, and so maybe allowing people to vote from their mobile phone or whatever would increase voting participation. But I don't think the biggest issue is there. I think the biggest issue is most people don't really know what they're voting on. And so the transparency around what you're backing, and if, for example, to use your example, if politicians would make claims of promises for their campaign on chain and they would have a bounty to accomplish them during their period, that would be something. That would be even a better application for this, right? And so people would be like, okay, each politician is saying that they're saying this, that they're going to do this. Basically on the campaign period, they're basically crowdfunding support, and people could put money there to do that, or whatever they want to put there, like voting power or whatever it is, some incentive. And then if the politician doesn't do that, they get slashed in some way to inherit some, DeFi mechanics on this as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paulo Fonseca. Big applause for him again. Thank you.